Hello and welcome, Grade 12 accounting learners, from myself, Mahesh Lal. In today's lesson, we're going to be focusing on debtors and creditors reconciliation. So let's just quickly recap on debtors first, and then we'll look at your creditors. Right, we're starting off with debtors. And what I want to do, before I look at an actual question on debtors reconciliation, let's go back a bit in time. Let's go back to grade 10. Firstly, who are debtors? Absolutely correct. Debtors are people who owe the business money. Why do they owe the business money? Because the business allows them to purchase on credit. So let's look at debtors control as our starting point. Right, debtors control. You guys remember in grade 10, you learnt that debtors were assets to the business. So on the debit side, an asset obviously increases, and on the credit side, an asset decreases. Now, when we talk about assets, remember guys, assets always have a debit opening balance. So for example, at the beginning of the month, our debtors are owing us as in the business, let's assume an amount of 1,000 Rand. What will make this balance go up? In other words, what will make the balance increase? Absolutely correct. Whenever we sell on credit to our debtors. So the moment we sell, they are owing us more money. So for example, we might have sold on credit for an amount of 2,000 Rand. Automatically, our debtors are owing us more. Their balance increases. What makes your debtors' balance decrease? In other words, when will they owe you less money? Absolutely correct. Whenever we receive payments from our debtors, and sometimes we also grant them discounts. So whenever there is a payment, bank, as well as when we grant them discounts, remember guys, it's discount received, their balance that they owing us is going to go down. It's going to decrease. So for example, our debtors might have paid us an amount of 2,000 Rand, and this would include the discount that we allowed them. Okay. Right, let's go back to something else that often makes your debtors control balance decrease. What happens if a debtor purchases something on credit and they take it home and then they realize, I'm not quite happy with this item, I want to return the item. So whenever the debtor returns an item, they're obviously not going to owe you that amount of money for that specific item that they purchased. So every time there are any kind of returns, all returns, remember guys, goes into our DAJ. So any kind of returns also decreases the balance that our debtors are owing. I'm going to write down returns, but remember, we don't call it returns, we call it debtors allowance. Let's just fix that. Let's call it debtors allowance. Okay, so whenever there is an allowance granted to your debtors, debtors allowance, this will automatically decrease the balance that our debtors are owing us. So for example, we granted our debtors an allowance of 500 Rand. Right, let's go back now to when will our debtors balance sometimes increase as well. Remember in grade 10 you came across RD checks. So if your debtor gives you a check that bounces at the bank, in other words, he's given you a check for, let's assume 100 Rand, but there's no money in his bank account, what then has to happen to his balance? Are you going to say, okay, it doesn't really matter, he doesn't really owe me that 100 Rand anymore? Absolutely not. You are going to demand that payment from him. In other words, he's going to now re-owe you that 100 Rand. So whenever there's an RD check, your debtors will owe you that money all over again, even though they gave you a payment. Right, still back to what increases or decreases your debtor's account. Let's stay with increasing your account. What happens if a debtor does not pay his account on time? Correct, we're going to charge him interest. In other words, you're not paying me, now you've got to pay me more. I'm going to charge you interest. So every time we charge a debtor interest, his balance will automatically increase. So for example, for the month, let's assume we charge the debtors 50 Rand interest. That automatically will increase the balance that your debtors are owing you. Right, just one more item that I want to recap on in terms of your debtors control account. What happens if a debtor disappears? So he's gone, poof, he vanishes. Absolutely correct, guys. That is considered to be a bad debt. So for example, Mr. A owes the business 200 Rand and he's now disappeared. We cannot trace him. We are not going to get back our 200 Rand. So it's pointless keeping that 200 Rand in our records. We then write off his debt as a bad debt, and that will also decrease the balance that our debtors are owing us. So let's assume 200 Rand is written off as a bad debt. Right, guys, that was a quick recap on your debtors control account. What else do we come across in terms of your debtors reconciliation? Apart from the control account, what are we reconciling the control account to? Okay, correct. We are reconciling it to a debtors list. So let's quickly recap on what is a debtors list. Right, I just want to change the color of my pen. So let's go to your debtors list. Okay, our debtors list, remember you've done this at school, is very, very similar to our debtors control account, whereby our debtors control account shows us in total how much all our debtors are owing us. Our debtors list is merely a breakdown of our individual debtors. So we could have a Mr. Peter. So Mr. Peter could be owing us an amount of 200 Rand. Then we could have Sam. Sam could be owing us 500 Rand. Then we could have maybe Elizabeth. Elizabeth could be owing the business, let's assume 800 Rand. So like I said earlier on, your debtors list is simply what your individual debtors are owing you. Let's now go to the concept of reconciliation. What are we trying to reconcile? All we're doing in debtors reconciliation grade 12s is we're reconciling our control account, the account that we've drawn up at the top, to our debtors list. In other words, if I had to balance this account, and guys, I'm not really balancing this account at this point in time, but if I had to balance this account, and let's assume I end up with a balance of 3,000 Rand, when I then total my debtors list, I am basically asking myself, am I going to end up with the 3,000 Rand? Because that's what I should end up with. But let's assume I end up with, and in this case, you're going to end up with an amount of 1,500 Rand. You then trying to reconcile the difference. So the control account was 3,000 Rand. And the list is 1,500 Rand. You are trying to reconcile this list to the control account. In other words, I could have made certain errors here, and I could have also made certain errors there. So that's what we're basically doing in terms of this question, your debtors reconciliation. Right, we're ready now to start with the question. So let's go straight into it. Question 1. Your debtors reconciliation and internal control. You are provided with information relating to SA traders. The bookkeeper has made a few errors when reconciling the debtor's control account to the debtor's list. Okay, so they're telling you that the bookkeeper has made certain errors, which means that the debtor's control account is not equal to the debtor's list. Let's look at what we're required to do. 1.1. SA Traders requires their new customers to provide personal details, including proof of residence, before opening accounts. Briefly explain why this is necessary. Name 2 points. So there's our internal control question. Let's now read the next question, 1.2. Prepare the correct debtors list on the 31st of August 2010 and show how you would adjust the debtor's control account using the format provided. Right, we've got a field for the question. I know I haven't read the entire question. We're going to get to that, but let's now go straight on to the internal control question. Let's answer the first question. SA Traders requires their new customers, so this applies to their new customers, to provide personal details, including proof of residence, before opening accounts. Briefly explain why this is necessary, and the question wants you to name 2 points. Right, guys, think about this logically. As a new customer, before you are allowed to buy on credit, you obviously need to fill in a credit application form. And one of the details that you would be required to submit is proof of residence. This is where most people would probably submit their water and electricity account or their rates and taxes account, simply to prove or to give proof of residence to the business that they intend on buying on credit from. Now, why is this the case? Why does the business want proof of residence? Okay, absolutely correct. You guys are thinking on the correct lines. The business has to send you monthly statements. So where they're going to send those monthly statements to, you've got to give them an address. So one of the points that we've got to mention is that the business sends out regular statements and they need an address to send those statements to. All right, so let's look at the answer. We've already discussed the first part of the answer, but let's go through it. It is essential for a business to know the address so that they can send statements promptly to debtors to ensure that they pay on time. Right, another point to consider. If any debtor do not settle their accounts, if a debtor does not settle his or her account, it will be necessary for the business to take some kind of legal action against them, in which case the addresses would be, again, essential in order to serve the legal documents on them. We've looked at the internal control question. Now let's move on to the reconciliation between the debtor's control account as well as the debtor's list. Right, we're required to prepare the correct debtor's list on the 31st of August 2010 and show how you would adjust the debtor's control account using the format provided. So we are given on our answer sheet our debtors list and the names of our 4 debtors, and then we've got a list of adjustment to the debtors control account. Now guys, immediately when you see debtors control account, draw your T, draw your debtors control account, remind yourself that debtors control is an asset. On the debit side, an asset increases. On the credit side, an asset decreases. Right, we're ready to begin. Let's start with our debtors list, and we're starting off by bringing down amounts in brackets, because we know in accounting in terms of brackets, how important your brackets are, because that's where we can earn our part marks. So let's now start with Sunnyside Traders. I'm going to open brackets and I want to go to my information. There we go. Okay, there's our information. Sunnyside Traders, before any corrections, was owing us 17,600. So let's bring that down in brackets. So in brackets, 17,600. Right, let's move on now to Tembisa Traders. It is Tembisa, that's right. Tembisa Traders is owing the business quite a large amount, 55,473. So let's bring that down as well in brackets. There we go. Open brackets, an amount of 55,473. Right, let's move on now to our next debtor. Tildai Suppliers is owing us as in the business, 3,400. So let's bring that down. 3,400. And then finally, we've got Mondo Stores, open brackets, is owing the business 660 Rand. Well, let's go back there, 660 Rand. Right, once we've brought down our brackets, we're now ready to tackle our adjustments or our errors. So let's go straight to those errors. And the very first error deals with Sunnyside Traders. So these were the errors that were picked up. Error number 1, interest on the account was calculated incorrectly. Okay, so we've got interest calculated incorrectly. Adjust for an additional 165 Rand of interest. Right, let's go to our answer sheet. There we go, and I just want to extend this page a bit. Right, so we've got Sunnyside Traders owing us currently 17,600, and we now need to charge them an additional interest, an amount of 165 Rand. Now, what do you think is going to happen to the balance that they're owing us? At the moment, it's 17,600. If we're going to add on interest of 165 Rand, they are then going to owe us, come guys, yes, they're going to owe us more money. So we now going to increase Sunnyside Traders, we're going to increase the balance by 165 Rand. Now remember, this obviously increases Sunnyside Traders. What does the additional interest do to the control account? Correct, it's going to increase the control account as well, the debtors control account. So let's now go to our list of adjustments to the debtors control account. We've got to show our amount and then account debit, account credit. The amount we don't have to calculate, so it's 165 Rand. What are the two accounts affected? We know one account has to be, let's just bring that down a bit. Your debtors control account is our one account, and what is the other account called? Correct, it's our interest income or interest on overdue debtors. Let's call it interest income. Okay, let's start with debtors control account. We know this account is an asset plus minus our debtors control. Our debtor is going to owe us more money, so this account has to increase, and it increases on the debit side. So account debit has to be debtors control. Right, let's look at the account credit. If debtors control is being debited, obviously interest income has to be the account that has to be credited. And remember, this is an additional income for the business. Therefore, on the credit side, your profit that goes to the owner eventually is going to increase. So account credit is going to be interest income. Okay, guys, I'm abbreviating, but remember, you are not allowed to abbreviate in your exam. Right, we're done with the first error, dealing with Sunnyside traders. Let's now look at the second error. Before we move on, I just want to remove this. Okay, right, let's go back to our question. So we're done with our first error. Let's now look at the next one. VAT at 14% was omitted on invoice 868 dated 31st July 2010. Omitted meaning it was left out. So VAT at 14% was left out. Total sales excluding your VAT amounted to 16,500. So what basically happened here, you've got Sunnyside traders who purchased on credit, but VAT was omitted. VAT was left out of the transaction itself. So let's firstly calculate the VAT and then let's include the VAT in terms of Sunnyside. Okay, so let's do your VAT calculation. The total sale, 16,500 times, I now want to calculate the VAT, so VAT is 14%, divided by 100, because remember your sales excluded VAT, so you're dividing by 100. Let's get those calculators out. There we go. So we've got 16,500 times 14% to give us a VAT amount of 2,310. Okay, so let's just write that down. Our VAT amount is 2,310. Right, let's now go to your answer sheet and let's look at how we're going to include this. Okay, so Sunnyside traders, remember you left out the VAT, you now need to include the VAT. So again, what's going to happen to their balance, the balance that they're owing us? If we're going to add on VAT, that balance has to increase. Absolutely correct. So let's add on the VAT amount. What was it again? It was an amount of, let's just go back there, 2,310. Okay, so we're adding on 2,310. Right, let's now look at what's going to happen to the debtor's control account, because remember the VAT was left out, so it's going to affect the control account as well. So let's go down. Our debtor's control account, again guys, I'm going to draw two T accounts. Let's just change the color of the pen there. Okay, one account that will get affected will be, again, debtor's control. And the other account, I am charging my customers VAT. That VAT is called VAT output. Absolutely correct. VAT output. Or sometimes your teacher might mention the word VAT control. So we either call it output VAT or VAT control. Right, let's look at the 2,310, the impact it's going to have firstly on debtors control. We already saw Sunnyside traders is going to owe us more money. Their account is going to increase. So this account, obviously, this entry rather, is going to appear on the debit side because the balance has to increase. So on the debit side, 2,310. So again, account debited is debtors control. Let's fill in our amount first, 2,310. Account debit will be debtors control. And account credit has to be your VAT output account. Remember, VAT output or VAT control is a liability minus plus. You are now owing the receiver. You can't keep the 2,310. That has to be paid over or handed over to the receiver. So you owing the receiver 2,310. So you're going to credit that output. Okay, with me? Brilliant. Let's move on. Okay, right, let's move on now to our next error. So we've dealt with Sunnyside. Let's now look at number 4. Errors on the account of Tembisa Traders. A credit note of 3,080 Rand. A credit note, guys. Credit note. Remember, whenever you see a credit note, what is that telling you? Brilliant. The debtor is returning goods. So credit note, remind yourself, the debtor is returning an item of 3,080 was incorrectly reflected in the debtor's ledger account as a debit entry. The general ledger is correct. General ledger, remember guys, here they're referring to the debtor's control account. So the debtor's control account is absolutely correct, but the error was made in your debtor's ledger account. Debtor's ledger as in the debtor's list. Right, guys, what I want is I need you to understand the error. So what I'm going to do is I want to firstly explain what exactly happened with Tembisa Traders, what happened in the debtor's ledger. And in order to explain, I'm going to draw a T account just to help me explain. And I'm going to call it Tembisa. Let's just call it Tembi. Let's shorten it because remember, this is just helping us to understand exactly what is happening. Tembisa Traders is a debtor. So automatically this is, let's just get our pen there. This is an asset. So I'm going to remind myself plus minus. Now you've got Tembisa Traders that came back to the shop. I'm not happy with these goods, 3,080. I'm returning these items. So automatically, they're obviously not going to owe you that 3,080, and you should, as the accountant, you should credit Tembisa Traders with 3,080 Rand. But did that happen? Okay, if we read on, they debited Tembisa Traders. So it was reflected as a debit entry. So instead of crediting, we didn't do this. Okay, we debited Tembisa Traders with 3,080. In other words, we increased Tembisa's balance with this amount. Okay, so how are we going to fix this? How are we going to correct this? Correct. We need to now credit Tembisa with 3,080. But remember guys, if we're going to credit with only 3,080, we're simply cancelling out the error that we've made. So what are we supposed to do? Correct guys, we're supposed to credit Tembisa Traders with 3,080 and again with another 3,080. The first credit is to cancel off the error that we've made by debiting Tembi stores or Tembisa stores, and the second credit is now to actually credit her account itself. Okay, you guys understand this? I know you've come across this a few times in the classroom, in your exams, but remember people, these are entries that you are going to find, these are errors that you're going to find in your exams. So we obviously credited Tembisa twice with that amount of 3,080. So let's now do that on our answer sheet. So let's go to that answer sheet. Okay, so Tembisa Traders, credit, remember, a credit means we are obviously subtracting. So we're now going to subtract 3,080, and then we're going to subtract again 3,080. Can you add up these two amounts and subtract one amount? Yes, you can. Okay, absolutely fine. Or you can show it exactly the way I've shown it in brackets. Okay, right. Let's now move on to our next error. I think the next error still deals with Tembisa Traders. So let's move on. Tembisa Traders claim that they paid 13,200 Rand last month, but that this is not reflected on their statement. Right, guys, so they've made, or they claim that they've made a payment of 13,200, but it's not reflected or not shown on their statement. investigations revealed that Tembisa Traders' payment was incorrectly posted to the account of another debtor, Sunnyside Traders. Oh my God, poor Tembisa Traders. They are the ones that paid 3,000 or 13,200, but instead of crediting Tembisa Traders, we now credited Sunnyside Traders. Okay, so do you guys understand the error itself? Okay, right, so let's look at how we're going to fix this. Again, guys, what I want to do is draw two T accounts. So let's just extend the page a bit. Let's go to the bottom. All right, so let's make sure we understand again exactly what has happened. So we've got Tembisa Traders and we've got Sunnyside Traders. Both are assets to the business. Both are debtors. Okay, so we've got Tembisa that paid in 13,200, so we should have reduced Tembisa Traders with 13,200, but we haven't done that. We instead went to Sunnyside's account and we reduced their balance by 13,200. Right, how are we going to fix this? Okay, absolutely correct. We need to obviously credit Tembisa Traders with the 13,200, and if we credit Tembisa Traders, what then must happen to Sunnyside? Remember, they can't now benefit from this payment because they haven't made this payment. So we now need to add on the 13,200. In other words, we are debiting Sunnyside's account with the 13,200. So in essence, let's just summarize that. Sunnyside Traders' account is going to increase by 13,200 because they never made the payment, while Tembisa Traders' account will now rightfully decrease by 13,200. Okay, right, let's go and do this on our answer sheet. Okay, there we go. So we've got Sunnyside Traders. We're now going to decrease their account by 13,200, and then, sorry, not decrease, I need to increase their account because they never paid me the 13,200, and Tembisa Traders, we now need to decrease their account by 13,200. Okay, so this obviously explains that high balance of Tembisa Traders. They actually didn't really owe you 55,473 Rand. Right, in terms of your debtors control account, let's go to your debtors control account. Was there an error in the debtors control account? Let's go back to the question. Okay, let's just go up there a bit. Right, so the error was just in, let's just find it quickly. Investigations revealed that Tembisa Traders' payment was incorrectly posted to the account of another debtor. So in other words, the error only occurred in the debtor's ledger. In other words, it only affects your debtor's list. It didn't affect the control account itself. Okay. Right, let's now go to the next error with Tembisa Traders. Sure, there's quite a bit of errors here with Tembisa. Let's now look at the last one. Tembisa Traders had issued a dishonored check. Okay, so they've made a mistake this time. It's not just the business. They've issued a dishonored check. Remember, guys, dishonored check, another word for this, they often refer to it as an RD check, in other words, refer to drawer. It could be they did not have sufficient funds in their account, or maybe they forgot to sign the check, but whatever the case is, the bank has refused to pay the 2,750. In other words, they've dishonored the payment, they've dishonored the check. So they've dishonored check for 2,750 in settlement of an amount of 3,100. Aha. So we've got the amount that was owed, 3,100. The check was for 2,750, which obviously means the business had granted them a discount. So let's just make a note of that. a discount was granted. Let's calculate the discount because we're going to need that information. So we've got Tembisa, the installment was 3,100, but they gave us a check for 2,750, which means we granted a discount of 350. So let's just write that down. Our discount is an amount of 350. The CRJ and CPJ entries were correctly recorded. The cancellation of the discount was not reflected in the debtor's ledger account. Again, debtor's ledger, guys, refers to the debtor's list. The control account is correct. So the error is not in the debtor's control account. The error is in your debtor's ledger account. Right, let's quickly talk about dishonored checks and what happens to discounts. Tembisa traders came to the business with a check, or they were ready to pay and they wanted to pay us 3,100. But because we believe that they are a very good debtor, in other words, they obviously pay their account on time, we then gave them a discount of 350. We then take the check, deposit the check into the bank account, and after a few days, the bank informs us that, hang on, there's no money in this account, or the check wasn't signed. Now remember, guys, as a business, what will you then do? Okay, I want to then take away that discount. In other words, you don't deserve that discount of 350. I'm now taking away this discount. In other words, as the accountant, you would be instructed to cancel the discount. So that's exactly what we now need to do. We need to cancel this discount of 350. In other words, we reduced your balance by 350, but because you gave us an RD check, we now going to make you owe us this 350. So let's now go to our answer sheet. Tembisa traders, let's increase their balance by 350. All right, so Tembisa traders now owes us a further 350. Okay, right, let's move on. I think we're looking at the last bit of errors. Okay, back to our question paper. There we go. Right, number 5, additional errors reflected on the debtor's reconciliation statement. The debt of 660 Rand of Mondo Stores, a debtor, had been written off as irrecoverable. Okay, remember guys, irrecoverable, you did this in grade 10. This simply means this is a bad debt. Okay, bad debt, we cannot trace the debtor, he's not paying us the 660 Rand, it's not worth us adding on any interest because he's just refused to pay, we rather write off his debt. The amount was posted to the debtor's control account, so that's been done, but not to the debtor's personal account. In other words, again, personal account meaning the debtor's list. So let's now go to our debtor's list. Okay, your debtors list, we're looking at Mondo Stores. They were owing us 660, but we now cannot recover the 660, so we decide to write it off as a bad debt. So all we're doing is subtracting 660, so Mondo Stores owes us absolutely nothing. It's not worth us keeping him or keeping this business in our records as debtors. Right, back to our question. Okay, the very last error, guys. Tilde suppliers are reflected in the debtor's ledger and the creditor's ledger. Okay, I just want to change the color of my pen. So we've got tilde suppliers that are reflected in the debtor's ledger as well as the creditor's ledger. Now, how is that possible? How can a debtor become a creditor? Okay, because a debtor, remember, the difference between a debtor and a creditor, debtors are people who owe the business money, whereas a creditor is when the business owes a supplier or owes someone money. Now, when will this happen? Think about it logically. Think about, let's give you a scenario. Let's assume I'm owing Woolworths 300 Rand. So instead of going and paying Woolworths 300 Rand, the amount that I'm owing, I don't remember my balance and I decide to pay 400 Rand. They offline, they can't tell me you're owing us 300 Rand, only pay us 300 Rand. So I decide, okay, let's pay 400 Rand. So automatically I've overpaid. And as a result, Woolworths is now owing me 100 Rand. So that's when, instead of me being a debtor, I've now become a creditor. So it could be a similar scenario. Let's read on. Their credit balance of 2,124 Rand in the creditor's ledger is to be offset against their account in the debtor's ledger. Right, so let's again, guys, let's draw up something so that we can understand this a bit more. So I'm just going to erase this quickly so that we don't confuse this with what's written at the bottom. Okay, so we've got, let's get our pen quickly. So we've got Tildai Suppliers, which is obviously a debtor and has become a creditor. So we've got Tildai Suppliers, we've got them twice. Tildai Suppliers. Okay, one's an asset, a debtor, and then Tildai Suppliers is also a liability minus plus. So in terms of the information that we've got, let's first go to our list. Okay, so let's go to the list. Tildai Suppliers is owing us 3,400 Rand. So let's just fill that information in. So Tildai Suppliers is owing the business 3,400 Rand, but at the same time, we are owing them 2,124 Rand, 2,124. Let's now look at what the error or what they're asking us to do. Their credit balance of 2,124 Rand in the creditor's ledger is to be offset against their account in the debtor's ledger. In other words, they're telling us that instead of us keeping them as a creditor, send this balance to your debtor's ledger. Right, again, guys, a bit of common sense, a bit of logic. If, for example, I am owing Peter 200 Rand, and Peter is owing me 500 Rand. It doesn't help if I go to Peter and give him the 200 Rand, and then Peter comes to me and gives me the 500 Rand. Okay, that's a bit silly. Why don't we just offset the amount that I am owing him against what he is owing me? So that is basically the scenario that is given here. So all we're doing, or all we've got to do, is offset this credit against this debit balance. Right, how are we going to do this? We've obviously got to do a general journal entry, which is going to affect both our control account and our list. Let's look at the general journal entry. In order for me to get rid of this 2,124, in other words, he's no longer a liability, I now need to debit my creditor's control account with 2,124. Okay, guys, I just want to write in here creditor's control. So we remember that we are obviously debiting a creditor. So we debit creditor's control. If we're going to debit creditor's control, there has to be a credit somewhere. Where are we sending this to? Fantastic. We're going to offset it against the debtor's control account. So we are now going to credit Tildai Suppliers with 2,124. In other words, from the balance that he's owing us, we're now subtracting the 2,124. Okay, right, let's do this on the answer sheet quickly. We're almost done. So let's do our list first. Tildai Suppliers, we are subtracting, or we are offsetting the 2,124, and then this will obviously affect our debtor's control account as well. So let's look at the amount, or let's fill in the amount, 2,124. What did we debit? What did we credit? Okay, let's go back to this. We debited, let's just, there we go. We debited creditors control and we credited debtors control. Remember, those were the control accounts that were affected. Right, so let's fill that in. We debited creditors control and we credited debtors control. Okay. Right, guys, we've looked at all the errors that affected your debtors control account and your debtors list, and all that's left for us to do, or rather for you guys to do, is to total. Okay, I'm not going to do that. You guys can do this on your own, but Sunnyside traders, remember, we are adding everything that's in brackets and we're going to end up with a total. We're going to do the same for Tembisa traders, Tildai suppliers, and Monday stores. So we're going to get our totals and then we're going to add up our debtors list. We don't have a debtors control account to add up, so unfortunately you're not going to know whether you've made errors or not. In other words, whether it has reconciled. But remember, that's obviously the nature of this question. Right, people, we're going to take a quick break. Go and get something to eat, maybe take a quick walk, and when you come back, we're going to look at your creditors reconciliation. Welcome back, guys. We've just looked at your debtors reconciliation. We're now ready to move on to your creditors reconciliation. You are the internal auditor of Valentine Stores, a gift shop owned by Mark Masuko. The creditors control account and the creditors list were prepared by the bookkeeper, Didzi Donald. The postings from the journals have been done, but you've noticed a number of errors and omissions. Right, remember guys, this is what the question will always be about. You'll always be given a scenario where there are errors, there are things that are left out, and you've basically got to go and fix these errors. Right, let's look at what is required. 3.1. The creditors control account reflected a balance of, so let's just underline, creditors control account reflected a balance of 61,417, while the total of the creditors list from the creditors ledger reflected a total of 59,387. So clearly there's a discrepancy, there is a difference between the two. Briefly explain why it is important that these two figures agree, and this is basically for 2 marks. In other words, why should your list, your creditors list total, be exactly the same as the creditors control account? Right, guys, I'm not going to go to the answer sheet for this one. I want to quickly explain the answer because we've discussed this already. Your creditors control account balance needs to be exactly the same as the creditors list because the information that is being entered into your control account is the exact same information that is going in your creditors list. So the total in the end should reconcile. It should be the same because it's the same information, it's the same transactions that's going into the control account and it's going into your creditors list. One is going into the general ledger while the other is going into the subsidiary ledger. So it should be the same. Technically, it should be the same amount. Why won't it be the same? It won't be the same if you've made errors, and remember, humans do make errors, or you've omitted something, you've left something out. Right, let's move on to the next question. Question 3.2 is divided into 3.2.1 and 3.2.2. Lists the corrections that the bookkeeper must make to the creditors control account in the general ledger and then they tell you the first one has been done for you as an example. If no entry is applicable, which we will encounter, you must write no entry. The next part of this question, prepare a correct creditors list on the 31st of July 2009. Show workings in brackets to earn part marks. We've spoken about brackets on numerous occasions now, guys. Remember, in order to earn part marks, you've got to show bracket work. Right, let's move on to the information. So we've got your information, your creditors list on the 31st of July 2009. So according to this information, we've got 4 creditors, Khan Traders, and very interesting, Khan Traders has a debit balance. Okay, so debit balance, immediately I'll just put a minus sign there. That simply means that we are not owing Khan suppliers, or Khan Traders rather, but they are owing us 563 Rand. And we spoke about this when we were doing debtors. We could have overpaid Khan Traders, and as a result, they are now owing us this 563 Rand. Then we've got Thankful Stores, so we're owing them 30,560. Cornell Limited, we are owing them 10,890. It's a credit balance, so that's how we know we are owing them. And then we've got Yolisa Wholesalers, we are owing 18,500. So if we take all our credits minus the one debit that we've got a creditors list balance that was mentioned previously of 59,387. Right, then information 2, as expected, errors and omissions. Guys, I'm not going to read through all the errors and omissions just yet, but I'm just going to look through. We've obviously got 5 errors that we're going to have to deal with. Right, let's now begin. Let's go to our answer sheet. Okay, let's just find the answer sheet. There we go. Right, on the answer sheet, we've got 3.2.1, which I've just read out, but let's just read it one more time. Lists the corrections that the bookkeeper must make to the creditor's control account in the general ledger, and then they tell you the first one has been done for you as an example. If there's no entry, you must write down no entry. In other words, don't leave it blank, write down no entry. Right, guys, something that I would advise you to do immediately, it's a control account, but you're obviously not completing a control account, but just jot down your creditor's control. Remind yourself this account is L for liability, decreases on the debit side, increases on the credit side. Right, we've got our answer sheet, and then in the end they want us to calculate a final balance. And then the next part of the question, or on the answer sheet, we've got to prepare a correct creditors list on the 31st of July 2009, and again a reminder on the answer sheet as well, show workings in brackets to earn part marks, and this in this question for 16 marks. Right, guys, like we did for your debtors reconciliation, your creditors list, we also going to start with opening balances in brackets. So let's start Khan Traders, open brackets, and let's go to our info. Okay, so Khan Traders, we've got a debit balance of 563 Rand. So let's enter that. But remember, guys, a debit balance represents, there must be a minus in front, or you can write down debit balance. I'm just going to put a minus, an amount of 565. Or is it 563? Let's just double check. Okay, 563. Right, next creditor, Thankful Stores. So let's go to their balance. And for Thankful Stores, we are owing them 30,560. So let's bring that amount down. in brackets as well, an amount of 30,560. That's the balance that we're owing them. Canal Limited, an amount of 18,000. No, that's Ulisa Wholesalers. Canal Limited, 10,890. So again, bring down that balance. Canal Limited, an amount of, open brackets, 10,890. And then finally, Ulisa Wholesalers, open brackets, the very last creditor, an amount of 18,500. Okay, so in brackets again, 18,500. Right, we're ready now to start with our errors. And guys, you're going to notice that as I'm doing this question, I'm going to be looking at 3.2.1, in other words, the creditor's control account, as well as 3.2.2, your creditor's list. So I'm working with both questions as I'm reading through the errors. Right, let's now go for it. Let's look at those errors. Okay, the very first error is done for you, but let's just go through it. A credit invoice for trading stock purchased from Canal Limited for 3,400 on the 28th of July 2009 was not recorded at all. In other words, it was omitted, it was left out. So you bought goods for 3,400 from Canal Limited, but you haven't recorded this. So let's now look at, or let's first go and look at the control account, how it's going to affect the control account, and then we're going to go to the actual list. The control account, I think, is done for us, but let's look at your control account. You've purchased for 3,400, so obviously you are going to owe more money to your creditors. So number A, the error, or error A, your balance now, the total balance that you're owing your creditors is now going to increase by a further 3,400, and this is obviously done for us. This was an example. Let's now go to your creditors list, and let's look at what's going to happen to the individual account. So we're dealing with Canal Limited. I just want to change the color of my pen. We were owing 10,890. We bought for a further 3,400. So this balance that we're owing people, it obviously now needs to increase. So we're now going to add on the 3,400. We're going to be owing more money to Canal Limited. Right, done with error A. Let's now look at our next error. So we're done with the first one. There we go. Right, the second error, or error B, stock purchased on credit from Canal Limited for 7,200 Rand was incorrectly posted to the account of Ulisa Wholesalers. Right, we came across this when we were looking at debtors. Again, guys, let's just quickly draw two T accounts and let's understand exactly what has happened. So I'm going to use a space here at the bottom. So we've got Canal Limited, who is a liability, a creditor, minus plus, and then we've got another creditor, Ulisa Wholesalers, which is also a liability, minus plus. Right, so we've purchased stock from Canal Limited for 7,200. So obviously the amount owing to Canal Limited has to increase. We've purchased on credit, we will obviously owe them more money. But instead of crediting Canal Limited, by mistake or in error, the accountant has credited Ulisa Wholesalers with the 7,200. So the error is obviously in the creditor's ledger itself, in the list itself. Now, how are we going to fix this? We obviously didn't buy from Ulisa for 7,200, so we cannot owe Ulisa the 7,200. So we now need to decrease Ulisa Wholesalers by 7,200. we're going to be subtracting 7,200 from that balance. And Cornell Limited, because we purchased from them, we can now correct the error and increase the balance that we're owing them, the amount of 7,200. Okay, so let's do that on our answer sheet. So let's go to that answer sheet. There we go. So Cornell Limited, I've just explained, we're going to increase our balance by the amount of 7,200. And then Yolisa Wholesalers, we didn't buy from them, so we're obviously not owing them that 7,200. We are going to subtract or decrease their account by the amount of 7,200. Right, and like I explained, it doesn't affect the control account because the error was in the list itself. Okay, let's move on to our next error. Right, error C. Interest of 258 Rand must be brought into account on the overdue account of Cornell Limited. Okay, so lots of adjustments here with this particular creditor. Right, so we've been buying a lot on credit. We haven't paid our account on time, and as a result, we're now being punished. We have to pay a further 258 Rand. They are now charging us interest of 258 Rand. So remember, guys, this still needs to be brought into account, which means it's going to affect your control account together with your list. So let's go to the list first, and then we look at the control account. So in your answer sheet, let's go to that list. There we go. Cornell Limited charged us interest of 258 Rand. So we're now going to owe them a further 258. And let's now go to your control account. Okay, remember, guys, something that I forgot to do for B, there was no entry. So I should have actually written that down. Let's just do that quickly. No entry because it didn't affect our control account. There we go. Right, and now we can look at C. For C, we're now adding on interest, so our account has to, or the total that we are owing our creditors has to increase. We're going to add on the interest of 258 Rand. Okay. Right, let's move on to our next error. Okay, so we're done with B, we're done with C. Just going to tick it off so we know we're done. Right, let's look at error D. The debit balance of Khan Traders must be transferred to their account in the debtors ledger. Right, now remember, guys, Khan Traders, this was the creditor that had a debit balance. In other words, we were not owing Khan Traders, but it was the opposite. Khan Traders were owing us a balance of, we'll get to the amount in a moment, but we now been told that this debit balance must be transferred to their account in the debtor's ledger. So again, this is going to affect your control account together with your list. Let's start by looking at the list first. Okay, so my list, there we go. Okay, so we've got Khan Traders, a debit balance of 563 Rand. We've been asked to transfer this to the debtor's ledger. So in other words, they need to owe us absolutely nothing. This needs to be zero. So remember, in brackets, how do I get this to zero? All I'm doing, guys, is I'm adding 563 Rand simply to cancel off this negative 563 Rand. So Khan Traders no longer is considered to be a creditor because they've now become debtors. We overpaid and we are expecting them to refund our money. We want our 563 Rand back. Right, so let's now go to our control account. And let's look at what's going to happen to our control account. Remember, there was a debit balance. Let's just correct. There we go. There was a debit balance of 563 Rand. we now need to transfer this to your debtors control account. So in order for us to transfer this amount, exactly what we did in the list, we're going to do the same in the control account. We are now going to add 563. Remember guys, by adding 563 doesn't mean your creditors control account is increasing. It simply means that you are trying to get rid of this debit balance. So let's now do that. For D, we are now adding 563 Rand. Okay, right, we've looked at 4 errors, few more to go. Let's now look at error E. So back to our question paper. Right, error E, just extend the page a bit, there we go. Goods of 800 and, let's just say that one more time. Goods of 8,350 Rand returned to Thankful Stores were incorrectly treated as a credit purchase, and it was posted accordingly. Right, again guys, it looks familiar because we've had something like this in the debtors ledger. So let's now look at how we're going to treat this in your creditors ledger, how we're going to treat this in your creditors control account. Again, the most important thing whenever you are doing a recon is to understand the mistake. Once you understand the mistake, it becomes pretty much straightforward in terms of how you're going to fix the error. You've got to understand the problem first before you offer a solution. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's understand what went wrong. Okay, so extending the page because I want to draw some T accounts and I want to change the color of my pen. So we've got Thankful Stores. Okay. All right, let's just call them Thankful. Thankful Stores, again, remind yourself, is a creditor, so liability minus plus. We obviously purchased goods for 8,350. Not happy maybe with the quality, and we decide now to return these items. The moment we return items, we will owe our creditors less money. So instead of treating this as a return, we've now treated it as a credit purchase. So instead of decreasing Thankful Stores with an amount of 8,350, this wasn't done, we then credited Thankful Stores with 8,350. In other words, we increased our balance with this amount of 8,350. Right, so that's the error that we've made. Remember, on the debit side, we should have had an amount of 8,350. Now, I often tell my grade 12s, how are we going to fix this? Remember, we can't use Tipex. We can't Tipex the amounts and fix it. We've got to have a debit somewhere. We've got to have a credit somewhere. Okay, so how are we going to fix this, guys? Right, absolutely correct. We need to obviously debit Thankful Stores with 8,350. But if we're going to debit Thankful Stores with just the amount of 8,350, all we're doing is cancelling the error that we've made. We haven't entered the entry for the refund, or sorry, not refund, but for the return of goods. Right, so just as we did for your debtors reconciliation, we're going to do the exact same thing for our creditors reconciliation. In other words, we don't debit Thankful Stores just once with 8,350, but we've got to debit it twice with this amount of 8,350. So in total, we are making a debit entry of, if we're going to double this amount, and let's just do that because that's what most of you would do in the exam, 8,350 times that by 2, we're doubling the amount. So we are simply debiting the account with the 16,700. Okay, so this amount here, guys, comes to 16,700. Thankful Stores account needs to decrease by 16,700. Right, so let's do that on our answer sheet. Let's go to the list first. So Thankful Stores, we are now subtracting. Remember guys, you can show it as individual amounts, or you can show it as one amount, being the 16,700. You can obviously show it as you please. Let's just show 8,350 minus 8,350. In other words, I'm subtracting a total of 16,700. Right, we've dealt with the error in terms of the creditors list. Now let's go to the control account, because it affects the control account as well. We are busy with adjustment E. So remember, we are now subtracting a total of, and I'm now going to double the amount, 16,700. Okay. Right, ready now to move on to adjustment or error number F. Let's go to our question. Right, our next error reads as follows. A discount of 230 Rand received from Yolisa Wholesalers was incorrectly posted to the creditor's ledger as an amount of 320 Rand. The debtor's ledger is correct. In other words, the control account is correct. We don't have to adjust the control account. So remember guys, the question asked us to write down, if we're not adjusting the control account, to write down no entry. So let's do that immediately before I forget. So let's go to the answer sheet, and we're busy with adjustment F. So for adjustment F here, there is no entry. Let's go back to our question and let's look at how this is going to affect our creditors list. Right, so we received a discount of 230 Rand, but instead of recording this as 230 Rand, we recorded it as 320 Rand. In other words, we've obviously received a less amount in terms of the discount in comparison to the amount that we've recorded. And again, guys, I'm going to draw a T account to explain exactly what happened in terms of the error. So let's draw a T account. We've got Yolisa Wholesalers, again, liability minus plus. So we received a discount of 230 Rand. Remember guys, a discount would reduce the balance that you are owing to your creditors. So instead of debiting the account or reducing the account with 230, we've obviously not done that. Okay, so I'm just going to erase that. We've now debited our account with an amount of 320. Right, how am I now going to fix this? In other words, how am I going to get this amount to 230 Rand? Okay, remember, I've obviously overstated my discount. I didn't receive a discount of 320 Rand. So how am I going to make this amount 230 Rand? What do I need to do to this discount, guys? Correct. I need to reduce this discount. I need to take away the difference between the 320 and the 230. Right, what is the difference? I don't need a calculator for this, guys. The difference is an amount of 90 Rand. So Yolisa Wholesalers, the balance needs to increase by an amount of 90 Rand, because we obviously didn't receive a discount of 320. So let's now go to Yolisa Wholesalers on our answer sheet. Creditors list, we're looking for Yolisa Wholesalers, and we're now going to increase our balance by that amount of 90 Rand, because we obviously didn't receive that 90 Rand as a discount, the difference between the two. Right, guys, let's go back to our adjustments or our errors. Right, we're ready now to look at error G. The amount of 2,100 Rand reflected as a refund in the creditor's control account was in fact received from a debtor, S. Stein, whose account had previously been written off as a bad debt. Right, guys, we've got a debtor, S. Stain, who decided to pay us 2,100 Rand, and instead of making an entry in terms of bad debts recovered, because remember, this was obviously a debtor whose account was previously written off, we've now made a posting error. So we've posted it to creditors control by mistake. So again, guys, let's look at exactly what happened, and let's look at how we're going to fix this error. So again, I'm going to draw two T accounts to explain the error first, and then we're going to look at fixing this error. Right, so we've got bad debts recovered. Okay, I don't have much space here, guys, but I'm sure you can see this. Bad debts recovered, remember, is owner's equity. It's an income for the business, and income increases owner's equity. And then we've got where the error was actually made, and this is creditors control. The control account is what we are obviously concerned about. So you've got this income that you receive for 2,100 Rand, and instead of recording this in your bad debts recovered, in other words, instead of recording this on the credit side of bad debts recovered, 2,100, we went and we credited creditors control with 2,100. In other words, we added 2,100 to our creditors control. Right, why did we do this? I have no idea, but we now need to fix this. So we know where the error is. We're not concerned about the bad debts recovered, but we're concerned about your creditors control. We increased our creditors control with 2,100. How are we going to fix this? Okay, we're not allowed to tip-ex the 2,100. We're now going to decrease creditors control with the 2,100. Does it affect any individual creditor? No, it doesn't. We've got 4 creditors and their names don't appear here at all. So it doesn't affect your creditors list. It only affects your control account. So let's now go to your control account. There we go, there's the control account, and we were looking at G. So we've now worked out that we need to, for G, reduce our creditors control balance. Remember, by mistake, we added on the 2,100. We're now going to subtract 2,100. Okay, it's simple, guys, I promise you. Again, if you understand the actual error, it doesn't take much to figure out how you're going to fix this error. Right, 2 more adjustments to go, or 2 more errors to look at. Let's look at the next one, H. An amount of 80 Rand in the creditor's allowance journal for trading stock returned was posted to the wrong side of the creditor's account, Thankful Stores. Okay, we came across this previously, guys. Again, T account is the best way to go because that helps me understand my error. So I've got Thankful Stores. Okay, Thankful Stores, liability minus plus. So I've got this amount of 80 Rand, which was an allowance, which should have reduced my balance. I should have reduced Thankful Stores with 80 Rand, but instead of posting it to the correct side, in other words, on the debit side, by mistake, I've now posted this amount to the credit side. Okay, in other words, I've increased Thankful Stores with 80 Rand. How do I fix this? I obviously need to make an entry on the debit side for 80 Rand. But again, we've spoken about this. If I'm going to only make an entry for 80 Rand, I'm simply cancelling the error that I've made. I've not recorded the actual return of 80 Rand. So I now need to double this amount. So the 80 Rand, I'm going to double the amount, 160 Rand. So I'm going to debit Thankful Stores or reduce Thankful Stores balance with an amount of 160 Rand. Right. Is the error made in the control account? No, it's not, because they clearly tell you it was posted to the wrong side of the creditor's account. Okay, so let's now go to our answer sheet. So for H, the control account, we've already spoken about this. There's no error that was made here. So we're simply going to write down no entry. And let's now go to the list. Thankful Stores, we're now subtracting the amount of 160. Or guys, remember, just as I did for the previous error for Thankful Stores, you can show the individual amount twice or double the amount, which I've done in this case. Right guys, looking at the very last error for this question, error I, VAT of 490 Rand was omitted from an invoice of equipment bought from Yolisa Wholesalers. Right, when we looked at the debtors reconciliation, we looked at when VAT was omitted from your debtors purchase. Now we've got VAT omitted from your purchase, as in when you purchased from your creditor. Right, Yolisa Wholesalers, there's no calculation for us to do. The VAT amount is given to us. So again, a very quick T account. Yolisa Wholesalers, liability minus plus. Remember, this is the VAT that we obviously were charged. So this VAT would increase the amount that we are owing to Yolisa Wholesalers. So on the credit side, this amount of 490. By crediting Yolisa Wholesalers, we obviously owing them more. So let's now go to our list. Okay. In our list, Yolisa Wholesalers, we are now owing them, so we are going to add this amount or this VAT amount of 490. Let's not forget about the control account because this was omitted, so it will affect the control account as well. For number I, we now need to add our 490. Right guys, now is the crunch time for us to test whether I haven't made any errors. So let's now get those calculators out. Remember, this needs to reconcile. It needs to agree. In other words, my control account needs to reconcile with my creditors list. So let's check whether it does reconcile. Let's get our calculators out. Right, let's look at our amount, 61,417 plus 3,400, and then we are adding our 258, then we are adding another 563, then guys we're subtracting 16,700, okay, then we subtracting again 2,100, and then finally we are adding 490 for our control amount, an amount of 47,328. So let's just write that down. So our total in the end is 47,328. Let's just double check that. Yeah, there we go. Right, let's now look at our list. Okay, so calm traders, guys, we already calculated this. We're not owing them anything. Let's now look at Thankful Stores. Just move this a bit. Okay, so Thankful Stores, let's just clear this up. Right, so we've got an amount of 30,560. We are subtracting 8,350. We are then subtracting another 8,350, and then guys we are adding, but subtracting 160, so we are owing them 13,700. So let's record that. Thankful Stores, 13,700. Right, our next creditor, Canal Limited. Okay, so we started with 10,890. We are then adding 3,400. We are then adding, there's that amount, 7,200. And then, guys, we are adding Okay, no, you can't see this, but this is your 258 Rand, so 258. And we are owing them 21,748. So let's fill that in. 21,748. Right, the final creditor. Your Lisa wholesalers, so calculators out again. Let's clear that. Started with 18,500, then we picked up errors, so we're subtracting 7,200, and then we are adding, this amount was 90 Rand, guys, and then we are adding our 490 to get an amount of 11,880. So let's just fill that in, 11,880. And then, guys, all we've got to do now is just check whether this reconciles. So let's just extend the page there a bit. Let's get our calculators out again. Okay, so we so 13,700. Let's just fix that, people. 13,700 plus 21,748 plus our 11,880. So our debtors list 47,328. Does that look familiar? Yes, it does, because our control account is the exact same amount. So let's just fill it in first. We've got 47,328, and remember, our list total needs to be exactly the same as our control account, and there we go, it is exactly the same. So I haven't made an error, and hopefully you guys didn't make an error either. Right, guys, we've come to the end of the session. We've looked at your debtors as well as your creditors reconciliation. Remember, people, the only way you're going to master this is if you practice, practice, practice. From myself, Mahesh Lal, good luck for your exams, study hard, and God bless.